She judged him the moment he walked in. No suit, no tie, just a man in joggers and a hoodie. She didn't ask his name, didn't glance twice at the way he moved, just dismissed him entirely. But life has a way of teaching lessons the hard way, and hers came fast and loud. Gregory Wynn wasn't one for morning distractions. His runs were sacred, a time to clear the static and breathe in the salt air by the bay. But today wasn't like the others. His phone buzzed in his pocket, each vibration a ticking clock. The city pulsed beneath his feet as he passed the old train station, the once-forgotten spot, now a prime target on his radar. The numbers raced in his mind, the deadlines, the deal that could change everything. 8 a.m. flashed on his watch. Half an hour left before the bank opened, before the window closed. He wiped sweat from his brow, the damp towel brushing his cheek as he turned onto Abercorn Street. The sharp suit could wait. Today wasn't about image. It was about action. Gravel crunched beneath his feet as the city watched, unaware that the man in joggers held the keys to a million-dollar opportunity. Most people barely glanced at him as he jogged past. Just another guy on the street. Nothing unusual. Gregory wiped his face again, catching his reflection in the window of a parked car. His navy pullover was slightly faded, his black running pants clean but casual. Instead, he stepped slightly to the side, giving the moment space to breathe. The security guard, still unsure, scratched his head, glancing between the manager and the man in running gear, holding executive clearance documents. Lisa Edmonds stood stiff now. Her voice had lost its sharp edge, replaced by a tremble she tried to mask as professionalism. "I didn't know who you were," she said, forcing a polite tone. "We've had incidents before. I had to follow my instincts." Gregory tilted his head, studying her. "No," he said softly. "You followed your assumptions." The woman in heels, near the pamphlets, slowly put it back on the rack and took a step closer. Not intruding, just close enough to listen, openly. Gregory gestured calmly to the paperwork Simone had handed over. "My signature is there. The approval codes match. The funds were flagged by my office yesterday. Every branch manager in this district received the internal memo. Including you." Gregory finished, his voice calm but firm. Lisa didn't respond. "So I'll ask again," Gregory continued, his gaze steady. "What about me told you I wasn't who I said I was?" Lisa swallowed. The words caught somewhere deep in her throat. "I didn't recognize you," she finally managed. "Do you recognize every executive in the company?" Gregory asked, one eyebrow raised. "No, but, so you made a judgment." Now, the older man by the 8 a.m. counter, quiet until now, turned fully. His gaze was steady, sharp, even. He looked at Gregory, then at Lisa. "She did more than judge," the man said in a low, deliberate voice. "She tried to humiliate you." Lisa shot him a look. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." "It does," he replied evenly. "Because if he hadn't had someone walk in with proof, what would have happened?" His voice was calm, but it carried weight. "You were about to call the police on a man for standing in line." The branch felt different now, like a shift had happened, a lens cleaned. Lisa pressed her lips together and turned toward Simone. "May I speak to you in private?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Simone didn't move. "No, ma'am," she said, her voice steady. "Everything that's happening now needs to stay in the open." Gregory checked his watch. He still had a deal to close. Responsibilities larger than this room. But something in his gut told him this wasn't a moment to walk away from. "I'll only say this once," Gregory said, voice clear, steady, carrying across the room. "You don't treat people like this. Ever. I built this institution." He took a step forward, his voice even but strong, addressing not just Lisa, but the whole room. "This isn't just about one person's mistake," Gregory said, his gaze sweeping the lobby. "It's about the culture we allow to grow in places like this. If we treat people differently because of how they look, how they appear, then we're failing at more than customer service. We're failing at humanity." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I don't expect perfection," he continued, "but I do expect accountability. We built sovereign unity on the principle that everyone, has the right to walk in here and be treated with dignity. That's the standard, and that's not changing on my watch." The room was quiet now, a stillness heavy with reflection. Even Lisa, standing silent and pale, seemed smaller somehow, not just because of the firing, but because of the weight of what had been said. Gregory exhaled slowly, a calm resolve settling over him. He turned to Simone. Let's get to work. They moved toward the conference room, leaving the branch to absorb the lesson. The man at the 8 a.m. counter muttered under his breath, almost to himself, about damn time. Gregory didn't look back. Some lessons weren't for revisiting. They were for remembering. And this one was going to stick. Lisa remained frozen, her hands trembling as they gripped the edge of the counter like a lifeline. For a moment, it seemed she might speak, maybe apologize or try to explain, but no words came. Gregory shifted his gaze to the young teller, Alicia. Can you process the withdrawal with the paperwork provided? He asked gently. Alicia hesitated, glancing nervously at Lisa before nodding slowly. Yes, sir. I just need a few minutes to enter the codes. Her voice was soft, as if she wasn't used to being listened to. Gregory took a step back, giving her space. Simone stood silently beside him, arms folded, eyes fixed ahead. Though she said nothing, her quiet fury was unmistakable, professional, but fierce. I'm sorry about all this, Alicia whispered. Gregory nodded in return. Thank you. Across the lobby, the man near the 8 a.m. counter gathered his receipt and approached. He looked to be in his 60s, wearing worn khakis and a short-sleeve button-up shirt, a Georgia Bulldog's pin clipped to his collar. Leaning in slightly, he spoke just loud enough for Gregory to hear. Don't let it eat at you, he said. She was wrong, no doubt. But you held your ground, with class. Not many people have that kind of restraint. Gregory smiled faintly. It's not about restraint, he said. It's about clarity. The man nodded slowly. My name's Melvin Banks, he said, offering his hand. Been banking here 25 years. Never seen anything like that. I'm glad I did. Gregory shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Mr. Banks. Then he stepped back, letting Alicia finish her work. His phone buzzed again, another update from the acquisitions team. He ignored it and glanced at Simone. You okay? She exhaled through her nose. I wanted to throw that binder at her head. Gregory cracked a smile. Would have been a lawsuit. We need you too much for that. Simone shook her head, half laughing. I've worked for you 6 years. Not once have I seen anyone that dismissive, that bold, so sure she was right while being dead wrong. Gregory looked past Simone at the glass wall of the bank, where Lisa was still standing by the counter, frozen. You know what gets me? He said. She didn't even think to check, because she thought she already knew. Simone replied quietly. That's the part people don't want to admit. Gregory nodded. Sometimes what you think is instinct is really just a bad habit dressed up like certainty. At that moment, Alicia raised her hand slightly. Sir, I have your transaction ready for final authorization, Alicia said, walking back over. She verified it with a simple code, a code only 3 people in the company had access to. Done, she said. Your funds will be available for transfer in the next 15 minutes. Perfect, Gregory replied. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a slim money clip, and slid a $100 bill across the counter. Alicia's eyes widened. Sir, I can't accept that. You can and you should, Gregory said with a small smile. Because you handled this better than people twice your age and rank. She took it, unsure but grateful. Lisa was still standing there, as if waiting for someone to undo what had been said. Gregory finally turned to her one last time. You know what you could have done differently? He asked. She looked up, eyes glassy. You could have asked one more question. That's all it would have taken. But now that the withdrawal was handled, Simone had something to say, and her words hit harder than anything Gregory had said so far. Simone turned toward Lisa like she'd been holding something in since the moment they walked in. Now, with the transaction processed and the silence thick enough to snap, she didn't bother lowering her voice. You ever been dismissed like that? She asked Lisa, direct. Lisa blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I mean, has anyone ever looked at you, decided they knew everything they needed to know in half a second, and treated you like a problem just for walking through a door? Lisa didn't answer. Simone kept going, her tone calm and measured, not angry. You know why I'm asking. Lisa glanced around, as if searching for some kind of backup in the room. There was none. You treated him like a threat, Simone continued. It didn't matter what he said, didn't matter how calmly he said it. You decided before he got a full sentence out. I made a mistake, Lisa muttered. No, Simone corrected firmly. You made a choice. That's different. Gregory said nothing. He let Simone speak because he knew this wasn't about venting. It was about holding someone accountable in a way she'd remember. Lisa didn't look up. Alicia kept her eyes on the screen in front of her, pretending to click something, but her cheeks were flushed. Even the security guard leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching like he knew what he was witnessing was long overdue. Gregory finally stepped in again, quieter this time. Your employment status has already been flagged. You'll be contacted before noon. I've made arrangements for an interim manager until we evaluate internal replacements. Lisa opened her mouth to object, but Gregory cut her off. This isn't a grudge. It's a liability issue. He wasn't just saying it for her benefit. The other staff needed to hear it too. Everyone in that building needed to know the rules weren't bendable depending on who was standing at the counter. You represent more than just a paycheck, Gregory added quietly. You represent trust. And today, you shattered that. Lisa's face fell completely. Any fire she'd had at the start was gone. I didn't mean for it to go that way, she whispered. I really didn't. Simone shook her head. Then why did you double down after he told you who he was? No reply. Gregory reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather-bound notebook. He flipped to a contact page, jotted down a name, tore it out, and handed it to Lisa. You're going to get a call today, but before that, I suggest calling this number, he said. Her name is Dr. Deandra Solis. She runs implicit training workshops out of Charleston. Not mandatory, just think about it. Lisa took the paper like it was heavier than it really was. I'm not a bad person, she said. Bad people rarely think they are, Simone replied. Gregory looked at Simone, then back at Lisa. I don't think you're evil, he said plainly. But I do think you forgot who you were supposed to be the moment you felt uncomfortable. And that's something you'll have to live with, not us. He turned toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and the next time someone tells you who they are, maybe listen, then, he said, and just like that, he walked out. No scene, no drama, just purpose. Simone followed, and as the door swung open, the woman who'd been browsing the pamphlets all along finally spoke up. Damn, she said. That was the quietest takedown I've ever seen. Melvin Banks chuckled. About time someone like her got reminded who signs the checks. Outside the bank, as they reached the car, Simone asked a question Gregory hadn't expected, and it pulled something deeper out of him. She didn't open the door right away. Instead, she leaned against it, still holding the now empty folder, and looked at Gregory with a long pause. You ever get tired of this? She asked quietly. He knew what she meant. Not the mourning, not the confrontation, not the fallout. She meant this, the entire loop. The constant pressure to stay composed. The second-guessing of everyday encounters. The knowledge that one misstep could cost more than dignity. Gregory didn't answer right away. He watched a city bus slow to a stop at the corner. An older man stepped off, lunchbox in hand. Just another day in Savannah. Just another man trying to handle his business. Then he turned to Simone. Yeah, he said softly, I do. But not enough to stop showing up. She nodded, her expression unreadable. I meant what I said in there. She replied. You held that with more grace than most people would have. I've seen VPs lose their minds over missing a salad dressing on their catered lunch. Gregory laughed a little, but it was dry. I've seen worse, he said. You know how many times I've had to explain who I am in my own conference room? He looked up toward the top of the bank building where the Sovereign Unity logo was reflected in the morning light. I built this company from a folding table in a one-bedroom apartment in Shreveport. 23 years old, $7,000 in savings, and a beat-up Dell laptop. I wasn't trying to start a revolution. I just wanted folks like my mother to be able to walk into a bank and not feel like they were being sized up for a loan they already deserved. Simone listened, arms crossed. Now, she used to tell me, he continued, every system is built with mirrors. Some people get to see themselves reflected. Some people just see glass. He rubbed his hands together, not from cold, but from memory. The first time I pitched a merger, I got told to wait in the hallway. They thought I was the guy delivering sandwiches. Serious? Dead serious. That was in Dallas. And after I closed the deal, the same guy came back and asked if I could train his team. Simone let out a low whistle. So this today, she said, just another Tuesday? No, Gregory said, finally opening the car door. This wasn't just another Tuesday. This was personal. Because I could have ignored it, could have walked out, called legal, let them handle it. But then what? He paused, then turned to her. She'd do it to the next person. maybe someone younger, someone not as connected. And that person would walk out humiliated, doubting themselves. Maybe they'd stop coming back. That's how the cracks start. Simone got into the passenger seat and closed the door. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then she asked, "You think she'll learn from this?" Gregory exhaled. "That's not my job to make sure. I did my part. The rest is up to her." They sat in the stillness of the car, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let in the scent of pavement warming under the sun. Finally, Simone broke the silence. "You ever think about writing this all down? Not just the bank stuff, the journey, the why?" He thought about it for longer than she expected. "Maybe someday," he said. "But right now, I'm still writing it in real time." She smiled. "Fair enough." Gregory glanced at his phone. The transfer notification had come through. "Deal approved. Funds moved. Let's head over to Jenkins Realty," he said. "They'll want the update in person." But just as he started the engine, Simone added one more thought, and it brought everything full circle. Gregory's fingers tightened around the steering wheel, the engine humming low when Simone spoke again. "You know what sticks with me the most?" she said. "Not how she talked to you, but how sure she was that she was right." Gregory kept his eyes on the road ahead. "She wasn't guessing," Simone went on. "She had certainty. And that scares me more than anything else, because how many other people walk around with that kind of certainty and authority?" Gregory didn't respond right away. He eased the car onto East Broughton, passing small shops, brick walls sun-bleached from decades of southern heat. "She thought she was protecting the bank," he said finally. "What she didn't realize is that she was the threat." Simone turned her gaze out the window, watching the buildings roll by. "I get that people make mistakes," she said. "But that wasn't a mistake. That was instinct unchecked. That was in Dallas. And after I closed the deal, the same guy came back and asked if I could train his team." Simone let out a low whistle. "So this today," she said, "just another Tuesday?" "No," Gregory said, finally opening the car door. "This wasn't just another Tuesday. This was personal. Because I could have ignored it, could have walked out, called legal, let them handle it. But then what?" He paused, then turned to her. "She'd do it to the next person, maybe someone younger, someone not as connected. And that person would walk out humiliated, doubting themselves. Maybe they'd stop coming back. That's how the cracks start." Simone got into the passenger seat and closed the door. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then she asked, "You think she'll learn from this?" Gregory exhaled. "That's not my job to make sure. I did my part. The rest is up to her." They sat in the stillness of the car, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let in the scent of pavement warming under the sun. Finally, Simone broke the silence. "You ever think about writing this all down? Not just the bank stuff, the journey, the why?" He thought about it for longer than she expected. "Maybe someday," he said. "But right now, I'm still writing it in real time." She smiled. "Fair enough." Gregory glanced at his phone. The transfer notification had come through. "Deal approved. Funds moved. Let's head over to Jenkins Realty," he said. "They'll want the update in person." But just as he started the engine, Simone added one more thought, and it brought everything full circle. Gregory's fingers tightened around the steering wheel, the engine humming low when Simone spoke again. "You know what sticks with me the most?" she said. "Not how she talked to you, but how sure she was that she was right." Gregory kept his eyes on the road ahead. "She wasn't guessing," Simone went on. "She had certainty. And that scares me more than anything else, because how many other people walk around with that kind of certainty and authority?" Gregory didn't respond right away. He eased the car onto East Broughton, passing small shops, brick walls sun-bleached from decades of southern heat. "She thought she was protecting the bank," he said finally. "What she didn't realize is that she was the threat." Simone turned her gaze out the window, watching the buildings roll by. "I get that people make mistakes," she said. "But that wasn't a mistake. That was instinct unchecked.